What is going on YouTube? Chris with Journals, Comics, and Pop Culture, and this is our monthly series, the top trending comics. This is for May of 2022, folks. If you aren't subscribed to the channel, please take some time to do so. Check out all the links below, including a link to today's sponsor, popculturezone.com. And I do want to let everyone know this is your last chance to have the opportunity to win this amazing Spectacular Spider-Man number 64 CGC 9.6 signature series signed by Ed Hannigan. This is the first appearance of Cloak and Dagger. All you need to do to have a chance to win this book is make sure you're subscribed to the channel, hit that notification bell, like this video, and comment below. Now, if you stay tuned to the end of the video, I will be asking a trivia question for you guys to leave an answer in the comments as well, for you guys to have a second entry into having that opportunity to win this amazing book. So this will be the last chance. I most likely will be drawing the winner 2 weeks from today. So good luck to you all. And of course, before we get into the books today, I do want to remind you guys that if you are in need of comic book supplies, check out BCWS Supplies.com. Their link is below as well. If you use the code JOURNOS, you will receive 10% off of your order. That code never expires. You can use it as many times as you want. So we're going to go in to looking at these books that have been trending hot for the month of May. And we have 5 books on the list today. And we're going to start off with book number 5 being Twig. Number 1, this is the Skottie Young variant. Okay, so this is a new release. I love when new releases get some love, especially a book like this. So me personally, never really been a fan of Skottie Young. I know that he has his unique artistic style that a lot of people love. I have been looking at the art on this book, and I think Skottie Young has done something absolutely amazing. High raw sale hit for $18, while average raw is going for $10. So this is a book that has been heavily sought after since its release. It is a book that has been moving a lot of units, and it's not like people are going absolutely crazy for it and blowing the price up, you know, out of proportion. So it's still a very, very affordable book. I don't remember if I picked this book up in my previous orders, but if I didn't, then I definitely want to try to, if I can't pick up the single issues, I'm going to try to get it in trade. Now, this is a limited series, and people have been calling it type of a labyrinth type world fantasy sci-fi story put out by Image. So it is definitely grabbed my attention, and it's something that I want to read. But just the world building that he's created with his art, Skottie Young, that is, I think is really reaching a lot of people, and that's why a lot of people have really dove into this book. So really unique and something different on the list this month. All right, moving on to number 4. This is a big one. We got Vengeance number 1, the first appearance of America Chavez. All right, we all know why this book is probably on the list for the month of May, because we had Doctor Strange and Multiverse of Madness. We saw America Chavez in the film. I personally loved her character, and without giving anything away, she was a key player in that movie. I didn't think she would have such a big role when I initially knew that she was going to be in the movie, or when I saw the trailer. I thought she was going to be kind of a minor character. She was a big player. Now let's look at these numbers, because you can see some red here, but I'm gonna break this down. Now, this book made the list because of the units it sold. So units have continued to move. Current 9.8 fair market value is sitting just over $1,000 at $1,016. A high 9.8 fair market value was around December of 2021, when that fair market value sat around $1,540. Around that same time, you had an outlier sale of $1,999. But again, fair market value sat around that $1,500 mark. I always say it's best not to look at outliers. Don't just look at the high sale and say, oh, that's what it's going for. Or, well, recent sale only sold for $950. So that means it's like, dropped $1,000. Don't look at just that high. Don't look at just the lows. Always look at the rolling fair market value. We are seeing a 34% decrease in fair market value. All right, but look at this. Let's put things into perspective. In 2020, a 9.8 fair market value of this book was $272, folks. So Even today, at around that $1,000 mark, it is still up 274% than it was just 2 years ago. While the average raw sale, no matter the grade, is $300. So again, average raw, you don't compute grade of the book or condition of the book. You just take all the raw sales out of the dollar amount divided by units sold. For people that are looking at the fact that this book is only selling for around $1,000 right now, when it was selling for $1,500, $1,600, 6 months ago, 7 months ago, and you're thinking that, she's a flop, the character's a flop, nobody liked her in the movie, put things into perspective. The decrease in value of this book is not, in my humble opinion, indicative of how we feel about the character herself, but it's indicative of the craziness of the spec market alone. Because I guarantee you could pull up any other MCU spec over the last 12 to 18 months, especially over the last 6 to 12 months, really, and you're going to see a similar trend. This book spiked to that $1,540 fair market value when we got her trailer. We are so reactionary right now that anytime we get that announcement or we get that trailer, these books are spiking so much, so quickly, that they're almost guaranteed to come down, no matter the success of that character, no matter if that character is well received once we see them. And this is why I have a lot of concerns about movie spec right now. So again, this dip in value isn't an indicator that this character is falling off, this book isn't going to hold. It's an indicator of the spec market in general. I think that this character was great in this film. I think we're going to see a lot more from her. And I know there's people that aren't going to like her. That's always given with all characters. Now, I'm not saying that you should even go out and pay $900 or $1,000 for this book. I'm not here to tell you guys what to buy. I'm just reporting on the market, right? But for me, in my humble opinion, I can't tell you if this book is going to dip down a little bit more in price. It may. But the fact that units are being sold shows that people are still wanting to buy this book. It could just be that a lot of dealers or speculators or flippers are actually putting more units on the market right now where, hey, supply is in an influx right now. And that's what's kind of driving the price down as well. And if you looked at my recent video that I just released, we have to talk about the state of the economic market in general and inflation and cost of living and how that's affecting people's purchasing decisions and so forth. But overall, I think this is the book that's still going to stand the test of time. I don't think it'll ever be anything close to where it was at just 2 years ago. And I cannot wait to see more of this character in the MCU. All right, folks, book number 3 on the list today. Here's another one, Captain Carter. Number 1, this is the first appearance of Captain Carter. Now, this book had a lot of hype because of Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness as well. This book does have some CGC 9.8s on the census, fair market value sitting about $325 already. Crazy, right? Average raw sitting at about 18. For me, I would not buy a 9.8 of this book right now for $300 something dollars. I wouldn't even pay $200. I wouldn't even pay $100. I'd go after some high raws if it was me. That's just me. But outside of the Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness speculation, knowing that this character was showing up in that film, there was an announcement that, and again, I don't know how much is solidified in rumor next to fact, but there's talks to bring this character back, and those talks may consist of her getting her own either live action film or live action TV show, and that is as Captain Carter. So that has brought even more attention onto this book. Again, be careful with rumors. We don't know exactly what's going on. And also, even if there are official announcements saying that something's in the work, it doesn't mean that it's going to be, it might get dropped. Like we just heard that Kathleen Kennedy reported that the Rogue Squadron is dead in the water right now. So all that Rogue Squadron, speculation and hype that boosted those books up to crazy amounts, man, to those people that bought those books, so I would be very careful with this book. maybe you can still find them for, under $10 and or maybe even under 20, and you think you're willing to buy this book for that. I think it's an awesome cover. I like the idea of this character. I like what they can do with this character. We shall see. I love Haley, and for her to come back as this character, I think would be something that could be done really well on screen. But would I invest a lot of money into this book? Yeah, I'd rather invest it elsewhere, personally. All right, guys, book number 2, Thor number 2. This is the first full appearance of Jane Foster as Thor. So, all right, you see red here, and we're going to talk about the numbers. Current 9.8 fair market value is sitting at 195. 2021 9.8 fair market value was 270. That's a 28% decrease. We do have an average raw sitting at about $35 right now. So all of these books have been hot with Jane Foster's Thor. And they got hot at the peak of the market, along with a lot of other books, especially spec books. And we see it cooling off now, but they're moving units again. Now, what's interesting about this book, and again, these books aren't on this list for you guys to just go out and buy them. These are books that have been moving units. And what's really interesting about this book is that once we got the trailer and saw her for the first time, and now we're getting images and so forth, every single book made it to the top 10, except for this one. You had Thor number 1, her first cover appearance, second cameo. You had God of Thunder, 31? Don't quote me on that, where it's like her first cameo appearance in a premonition. So you had all these other books that were related to this character. Remember, there was a cover price top 10 a couple weeks back that we reported on that had 8 out of 10 books were Jane Foster spec. This book wasn't one of them. So I feel like this book got kind of swept under the rug for some reason. And now I think people are looking back at it and saying, well, Thor number 1 and all these things, first cameos, first cover, but how about the first full appearance again? Let's go back after that. And while it's moving units, it's still not at what it was at when it hit that peak in 2021. So what do I think about this book? I think, is it a time to buy because it's dipped off? Again, for me, it's all about raw copies. If you could find a high grade raw of this book for a value that you feel that you can afford and you're willing to take a risk, fine. Do what you feel comfortable with as long as it makes you happy, right? Again, this is another character that I don't know if this is going to be a one and done for Natalie Portman. They could do so much with this character for a multiple movie contract. Who knows? But just be careful with movie spec right now. I like that this is a first full appearance. She's on the cover, and it's a nice, awesome cover. But we know how people go after cover appearances. Even though Thor number 1 is still a cameo, she's on the cover. It's her first cover appearance. And I think that's always going to matter. I think that's always going to put that book above this one, in my humble opinion, in terms of how we demand it on the market and, what we're going to look at in terms of price for that long term. I think that's still and always going to be a bigger book. All right, folks, we have one more book on the list today, but before we get into that book, I want to take less than 60 seconds to talk about today's sponsor, PopCultureZone.com. PopCultureZone.com is an online shop focusing on hot new comics, including exclusive and incentive variants, CGC graded comics, and tons of other inventory, including pop culture toys and other collectibles, all at low and competitive prices. PopCultureZone.com ships all over the US, and if you are buying raw comics, they offer flat rate shipping of only $4.99. That's right, $4.99. Absolute craziness, right? And there's no taxes included, excluding New Jersey. Pop Culture Zone is also on eBay, where they hold a 100% positive feedback rating with over 8,000 completed transactions for this year alone. Make sure to check out the link to their website below, as well as their eBay link, so be sure to give them a follow there as well. All right, everyone. Book number 1 on today's list. Star Wars number 2 from the original Marvel series. This is the first appearance of Obi-Wan Kenobi, Han Solo, Chewie, and If you had to guess why this book is back on a list where it's moving units, the Obi-Wan Kenobi show. We've gotten trailers. It's coming. It's just over a week away. I can't wait. Let's look at these numbers. Current 9.8 fair market value, $5,625. This book just had a record high 9.8 sell for $6,300. Look at this. 2 years ago, 2020, 9.8 fair market value, $487. That's a 1,055% increase in value. Mind blown. Average raw, $102. So for a Bronze Age book, keep in mind you could probably find a mid-grade around that price, because again, you calculate the raw sales, you don't calculate grade at all. Add up the total dollar amount divided by units sold. Look, I'm extremely, extremely excited about this show. And I've said it before. I've said it on our Comic Book Canada show. I think the show has the ability to be some of the best live action Star Wars, where you can put it up close to the original trilogy. And for me, the only things that come close to that is, at least in terms of look, we know what Mandalorian's done, but I think this has great potential. Great potential to be a classic that stands the test of time. Would I pay $5,000 for this book in a 9.8? No, because I don't have that kind of money. But I do think it's crazy how much this book has increased over the last couple of years. But I will say this: I'm gonna play both sides of the sword. I believe many Star Wars comics were very undervalued for a long time. I don't like to use the term undervalued lightly. I think comic collectors and Star Wars fans have realized how much value is there in Star Wars comics. So, it doesn't surprise me that this book, along with the plethora of other books, Star Wars books, have really shot up in price over the last couple of years. And I know, talk about the COVID market and all that impacted that as well. But I think this book sitting at a $487 and a 9.8 in 2020 was utterly ridiculous. This book should have, in my humble opinion, should have been worth absolutely well over $1,000 in 2020 and a 9.8. Do I think that this $5,600 fair market value can hold? Again, I'm not even going to talk about the comic book market. I'm going to talk about what's to come in our economy. How many people are going to be having the disposable income to continue to put big dollars into big books? But to play devil's advocate with myself against that statement, when you're dropping $5,000 on a book, you're probably fine. You're probably set. There are a lot of people that probably aren't going to be affected by the growing cost of living, the growing cost of goods, food, gas, etc., that are still going to be putting big money into comic books. But I know there's a lot of people that are going to be hurting over the next year or two, or who knows how long. I do believe this book is going to hold a solid value, even if we see short-term ebb and flow. But even with the way the economy is right now, guys, if this show hits, look, the economy is what it is, and just this month, it hit a record high in a 9.8. If this show hits and it blows people's minds, I see that 6,300 being dwarfed. I think there is going to be another sale that can hit 7,000 for this book if this show comes out and does what it's supposed to do. Again, I'm not here telling you guys to buy any book on this list. I'm just dropping the data and giving you guys my personal thoughts on each book. But I'm excited for the show. Let's keep an eye out on these Star Wars books, especially this one. All right. So, folks, that is the video today. Trending books for the month of March. Let me know what you all thought in the comments below. And before we get out of here, remember we have a giveaway. Before I get into a trivia question, I do have to say thank you to all my Patreon members. Thank you so much for the continued support. Trev, the Shipping Guru, John, Nexus Cowboy, Verified, Kyle, Justin, Kenwig, Jordan, X11, Shelby, Rich, Tony, Larry, Michael, Alvin, Fletch, Pedro, Peter, Joe, Larissa, Sagi, Dan, and Simon. Thank you guys so much. And to all of my YouTube channel members, I appreciate you guys all so much. If you guys are interested in becoming a channel member, you can click that join button below for only $1.99 a month. And I do have my Patreon membership link below in the description. That's only $3.99 a month. But folks, before we end the video, here's the trivia question. For you guys to have an extra chance to win that beautiful CGC 9.6 Signature Series Spectacular Spider-Man number 64, the first appearance of Cloak and Dagger, signed by Ed Hannigan. The question is this, folks. I have over 20,000 comics in my collection. I've been collecting for almost 35 years. What characters, you don't need to name the actual book, but what characters are in the first comic book that I ever owned? The first comic that I ever owned is of which characters? Leave your answer below, folks. Thank you guys for watching. Be well, and until next time.